W-A-N-N-O. What's that spell? It's Wano. We have waited so damn long for this arc to arrive. Samurai cities, our expectations are high. Wano is here and we're having fun. This is gonna be great. Are you cringing yet, son? Wano arc. Start to. Alright everybody, and without further ado or further delay, welcome all to One Piece Chapter 909 review, titled Seppuku. You may notice that Seppuku does not seem to be a chapter title that one would find when discussing Reverie. That's because Reverie is over. It's done with. You had any questions? Too bad. We're never getting answers. No, not true. Of course, we're gonna go back to Reverie at some point. Hell, this might only be like a teaser trailer for Wano. Like, remember at the end of Dressrosa, we had like that little chapter where we saw Sanji and Nami running around Zou, and then we cut back to the end of Dressrosa, and it took a few chapters for us to actually get to Zou. That might be what's here for Wano, although I don't think it is. I think really we're just going right to Wano, and you know, it's been much of a delay. Don't worry about Reverie. I know we're all kind of building up there. We might be blue-balled a little bit, but don't worry, we'll address Reverie at some point. But come on, guys, it's Wano. We've been waiting for this for like 5 years or some shit. Let's just go right into it. Cover page with Orlumbus. Okay, he's attacking an island that looks like is that a baby bottle? I don't know. He's attacking a bunch of babies. Okay, so that's the Great Pirate Orlumbus at 4 p.m. Okay, awesome. So, moving on to the actual chapter, it's still, we don't really get into Wano until about halfway through, but the lead up to that is still good, alright? It's not like we spend half of the chapter just, you know, sitting around doing nothing. You know, like, here's a chapter featuring Crocus and Laboon sitting at the Twin Capes, just kind of, you know, chilling out. Crocus is reading the newspaper for 12 pages, and then we cut over to Wano for the last, you know, 7. No. We do stuff. Okay. So we're in some unidentified island in the New World. We don't exactly know where it's at, but we see the Mink's ship has actually docked here, and there we have the guardians of the Mink tribe. We see BB, or Blackback, who is the gorilla Mink, and I think his name was Rhodey, who is the bull Mink. They're the ones that attacked Luffy when Luffy just, you know, so elegantly just jumped into the forest back on Zou, and so they were part of Nekomamushi's group. Now remember, the way that the team split up back on Zou, you had the Luffy and Nami and Chopper and Carrot team that went to Totland to rescue Sanji. Mission accomplished. Then you had the Zoro, Kinemon, and Kanjuro team, as well as with Law, that went to Wano to kind of just stake the place out and kind of set up shop there, waiting for the other Straw Hats and reinforcements to arrive in their ultimate goal of opening up the borders of Wano. Remember, that is going to be the final goal in this arc, okay? I know it's a lot of stuff going on, so it might be kind of hard to, you know, forget yourself of where we're actually heading, but we're going to try to take out Kaido, or at least kick him out of the country, get rid of the Shogun, because he is corrupted, and also fulfill the wishes of Lord Oden, who is the daimyo, one of the nobles, who is the lord over Kinemon and Kanjuro, and who is the true father of Momonosuke. His goal was to open up the borders of Wano before he was apparently dipped in boiling hot water and killed. Though we don't actually know that yet, because we didn't actually see him get dipped in the boiling water. All we saw, or rather all we heard, was the screams of him, and you know, that could have been anything. We don't know. I think Oden is still alive, but that's just my idea. But anyway, yeah, that was their team. Then you had the team of the ones that just stayed on Zou. So Momonosuke, he stayed on Zou to try to commune with Zunisha, along with Inuarashi. And then you have the final group, Nekomamushi's group, that went to go find Marco the Phoenix, who is he's the former first mate of the Whitebeard pirates. Now he was sort of the leader for a while, but remember, ever since the Payback War, the Whitebeard pirates have sort of disbanded. Marco is kind of off on his own, as with what's happened with Jozu and Vista, and you know, the guy that's a shark, I don't know, Niamar, I think his name is. But yeah, we don't know where they're all at. Maybe some of them are still hanging out together, maybe they all separated, I don't know, but the Whitebeard pirates are not really a crew at this point, so they're no longer really a fighting force all at once. So Nekomamushi went out to go and seek out Marco, okay, and that's actually where we're at right now. So yes, we get to see Marco in this chapter, as well as with starting Wano. It's just a bonus, but I love it, okay? So the Minks are just kind of chilling out there at the port of this one particular island, and they're mentioning, you know, why aren't aren't we allowed to go further into the island? And they're like, well, you idiot, we're kind of scary. You know, the people that live on this island, they're used to a very peaceful lifestyle. If we just show up with our, you know, mink appearances, that might kind of freak them out a bit. So they're like, that's why we're staying here and everything. It's like, yeah, well, Master Nekomamushi, he's terrifying. He's the most terrifying one out of all of us. And they're like, well, his smile's pretty cute. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that is pretty cute. I'll give you that much. He's a kitty cat. What are you going to do? We get a little bit of tidbits of information involving Marco and Whitebeard just in general here, talking about Marco, first made, Phoenix powers, working at, you know, he was at Marineford and everything like that, and now his current whereabouts are unknown. You know, it makes me wonder. I wonder if it's Oda is the one that wants to leave in these little trivia facts, these little, like, tidbits of information just to, like, kind of catch everybody up that hasn't read the manga, or if it's like the editors. I don't know. Really, honestly, you know what? I'm against them. I'm against Oda refreshing our memory. Only the true fans of One Piece should be reading this far in. If you don't understand something, you gotta go back. Or, rather, instead of having them trivia facts, just have them be advertisements. It's like, you don't know who Marco is? Well, go pick up the Summit War manga, now available in tankobon format, and you can go and find out about him. Now, I'm just being exaggerating, you know, it's fine, it's okay. I'm actually cool with them because sometimes I forget stuff. I mean, yeah, you have the wiki to help you out, but it's nice to have little fun facts just in the chapter so you don't have to go and do extra research. One Piece has been around for 20 years, guys. So, honestly, there's people that are getting started right into it right now that have no idea what's going on. I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine the poor son of a bitch that's like, you know what? I think I'm going to start reading One Piece this week. You know, I'll see what all the hype's about. And it's like, oh, they're in some samurai country. Let's see where this goes. It's like, we were waiting so long and you get to just jump in. Okay, but anyway. So it turns out that this island that they docked at, we don't know the name, but there's a giant waterfall right next to the port. And then behind that waterfall is a cave, and then on the other side of that cave there's a very peaceful kind of country, serene, sort of fuchsia village vibe. You just got a nice wooden fence, and birds are chirping, and the grass is green, and the trees, and there's this little tiny peaceful little village tucked away in the center of this island, in the middle of the New World, this place of just huge chaos all the time, but there's this nice little peaceful village there. And it turns out that that's where Marco's been for the last year or so, ever since the Payback War. So we see him there treating a, is that a freaking manticore from Impel Down? Okay, fine, whatever, I'll go. No, is that the Sphinx? Is that the damn Sphinx? Yeah, I mean, it's not quite as big as the Sphinx was, but it looks like to be a member of the same species, yeah. I was gonna say Manticore, but no, the Sphinx was like the boss Manticore. Remember that in Impel Down Level 2? And that thing was huge, though. It blocked it took out like an entire, doorway down to Level 3 it was blocking, you know, and it just dwarfed Mr. 3 and Luffy and everybody like that. This one's a little smaller, but, you know, once again, probably part of the same species. We have Marco hanging out, and I was actually kind of disappointed. I thought the next time we were going to see Marco, he was going to have a badass goatee, sort of like what Sanji had, and he already had a little bit of like shaggy scruff, but no, unfortunately he doesn't have that, but he does wear glasses now, so okay. That's fun. Right, and it seems here that Marco is actually using his Flames of Restoration or his Flames of Recovery to heal up the Sphinx's injured leg. Now, just really quick, Marco has the ability of an unnamed phoenix fruit. We don't know the exact name, but it's a mythical zone. So, because it's mythical, on top of being able to transform into an animal like a normal zone, he's also granted some kind of special ability. You know, like Sengoku, he's also a mythical zone. He's the Daibutsu motto. So, on top of transforming into the Buddha, he's also able to shoot out the shockwaves. So, yes, and he also knows Da Wei. Is that meme still a thing? I'm bringing it back. It's coming back. You thought it was over? No, it's coming back. But anyway, yeah, it seems, though, that Marco, on top of being able to use his Flames of Recovery on himself, like remember when Kizaru was punching him through holes, he got hurt, but the flames were able to recover and heal him right away. He's also able to use these flames on other living beings. Now, one would immediately think, well, doesn't that mean Marco is awakened because he was using his Flames of Recovery on something other than himself? That's kind of hard for me to determine. I'm not going to rule it out. All I'm going to say is this. The only confirmed awakenings that we've had in the One Piece series, 100%, are the Demon Guards, who were Zones in Impel Down, and Doflamingo and Katakuri, who were both Paramecia. Granted, Katakuri was a special Paramecia, but you know what I mean. When it came to the Paramecia, it seemed that it extended their element or their ability to the area around them, where they could just turn, like Doflamingo could turn the entire area around him into string. Katakuri could turn the entire area around him into mochi, no matter what it was. He was in the mirror world, and he was able to turn everything into mochi, and on top of that, it seemed that they had, like, telekinetic abilities to manipulate their element. So Katakuri turns the entire ground into mochi, and with just a thought, he can mold that mochi to attack Luffy, no matter, you know, what the shape was or anything like that. And with the Zones in the Demon Guards in Impel Down, it seemed that it just made them really stronger, really buffer, and increase their stamina and their healing factors to insane degrees. So it would seem that it's different for each type. So because Marco is a Zone, I'm going to assume that his awakening just allows him to turn into a buffer, stronger Phoenix. However, he's a mythical Zone, so it also kind of delves into Paramecia category a little bit. Do you see where I'm going? And another drawback of this is that when he's healing up this Sphinx's leg, he mentions that the Flames of Restoration, they don't exactly work as well on other beings as it does on him. So Marco could literally get, like, shot in the chest, and using his Flames of Restoration, he could, okay, I'm good. Want to go out for some Denny's? You know, that could literally be him. It doesn't work for other people, so if someone has, like, their leg or their arm chopped off, Marco just can't walk over and, like, Flames of Restoration, and their arm just grows back. That kind of is something that's only indicative for him as the, you know, the actual bearer of the fruit's abilities, but I can imagine they work well with first aid. And we find out in this chapter that Marco actually used to be the doctor as well as the first division commander of the ship. And I can imagine Marco, you know, he has medical knowledge, goes around, you know, like, oh man, you got a pretty big gash on your arm. All right, well, let me do first aid to kind of like suture the wound and staunch the bleeding and everything. Then I will use my Flames of Restoration. And he mentions it speeds up the healing faculties of other people a little bit. And he says that by this time tomorrow, the Sphinx should be fine and be able to fly again. However, states, you know, oh, don't do it right now. You heard what I said, right? And the little girl jumps forward. Is like, oh my God, Tama, you're better. Thank God. So the Sphinx's name is Tama. So that's interesting there. Okay, cool. Other people from the town begin to talk to Marco and say, Marco, my back hurts again. Marco, my knee's acting up. Marco, my younger brother bullied me. So it's kind of a cute scene where even though, like, because you have to figure how hard this has been for Marco, okay? Not only did they lose their captain and their father figure, Whitebeard. Remember, a lot of the members of the Whitebeard Pirates were kind of just misfits that Whitebeard recruited. And then after Whitebeard died, Marco was like, all right, we're gonna get back at Blackbeard. We're gonna teach him a lesson for what he did to us. And they rallied together, and you know they're not idiots. You know they're not just gonna, like, let's just, you know, charge at Blackbeard. No, they spent a year or so planning this freaking payback war, like, we're gonna get him. They tried and they failed. Worse than failing, Marco mentions they weren't even really able to do anything to him. They didn't even really leave a dent in their force. Like, they couldn't even take out one of, like, it's like, it'd be one thing if it's like, okay, we attacked Blackbeard and we ultimately lost, but at least we took out Lafitte, or at least we took out Shiryu. Like, they weren't able to do anything to these guys. So Marco, at this point, he was, after the payback war, he was probably just like, guys, I'm so sorry. We got defeated. Maybe some people on the Whitebeard crew died at the payback war. In fact, I'm pretty sure they probably did. And Marco was just like, guys, we're splitting up. I'm not going to let you die anymore because of me. So he probably felt like he failed. So I was kind of worried about the guy. But here he is in this peaceful little village out in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, he's doing good. He's helping the townspeople. He's kind of like a big brother figure to, like, the kids probably. And he's just genuinely a good guy, but he's, like, retired. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, I'm done with the pirate game. We tried that and it failed. At least here, I could do some good. And we actually find out that this place is not just any old insignificant hamlet. This is actually the homeland of Whitebeard. That's right. He actually grew up here. Now, he didn't really have any friends or family in the town, and he mentions that it used to be really ravaged and horrible, and we actually get to see an image of Whitebeard when he was a little kid. That would be, don't act like, oh, wow, we get to see Whitebeard as a kid. We've actually already seen it before. Oda has drawn Whitebeard, and I believe Jozu and Vista and Marco and Izo, who were all members of the crew, who were all division commanders, also drew them as kids as well. Also, by the way, when I was going back to get the image here from the SBS for Whitebeard when he was a kid, and he's wearing the exact same shirt, by the way, it has the kanji for power written on it. I also saw the child drawing of Izo, who was the 16th commander. He was the guy that was kind of dressed like a geisha. He was a cross-dresser, so he was an Okama. This guy, look at his backstory, and it kind of looks like maybe he came from Wano? Like a kabuki kind of thing? Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see. But anyway, yeah, this is where he lived for years, and it was like this ravaged place. And so even after Whitebeard left and went to become a pirate and eventually a Yonko, and even though he didn't really have any, like, family there, and that's the reason Whitebeard was so obsessed with having a family later on, he still sent money back to this village. So he was using the money from his pirate operation, which was in effect dirty money, but he was using it to build this little town back up so it could at least become a nice place to live. And we can see here in this chapter that yes, it has become an extremely nice place to live, very much excluded and tucked away from the rest of the world there. Also, little fun fact we find out here is that the grave of Whitebeard and Ace that we see at the end of, right before the time skip after Marineford, we see Shanks and all the Whitebeard pirates at that funeral ceremony, and we see Red Hair here as well. We actually find out that that exact grave is located on this island, and Shanks was the one that actually built it. So Shanks did a great job here. He basically not only ended the war, but he also took responsibility for Whitebeard and Ace's personal funerals, and had, him and his crew build the monuments to memorialize them. Kind of the same thing as what happened at the end of Thriller Bark when Usopp and Frankie and Chopper got together and they made the tomb or the gravestone or the memorial for the Rumbar pirates. I love that scene, and the scene where afterwards Brook just kind of sits down and plays the violin, and then Zoro comes in with Yubashiri and is like, allow it to rest here too. One of my favorite scenes in One Piece. So that's pretty cool there. I mean, it would be cool if we actually knew the name of the island, because now we know it's the same island as where the Whitebeard and Ace are buried, but what are you going to do? So Marco finally begins, he takes off his glasses and he begins to kind of weep, and he's like, man, yeah, Pops was pretty stingy, right? He always drank other people's booze, and he never treated us to food, and the reason for that is, even though he was a Yonko, whenever they gathered treasure, they would split it up amongst the crew, so, like, okay, Marco, you get this piece of treasure, Jozu, you get this piece of treasure, but the pieces of treasure that Whitebeard had for himself, he never spent on himself. He always sent it back to this place, so this place could remain safe. And so that's why Marco's getting a little teary-eyed here. He's like, man, he really was such a great guy, wasn't he? Yeah, this is so great guy. Yeah, Whitebeard, we miss you. Can you come back? You know what? I know One Piece has been pretty good with when characters are dead, they're dead. It's not like they're coming back as zombies or ghosts or something. But hey, if you want to do a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure thing with this at the end of the story, you want to have like a big image of like Whitebeard in the sky, striking an epic pose and just like, that would be pretty sweet. It's like, yes, this was the story of One Piece, and the last thing you see is just Whitebeard with his stash, like, yep, that was fun, thanks for reading. Okay, so moving on, they're now actually talking about Weevil, and this was cool, because I'm like, all right, we're kind of sitting there, and, Weevil is the self-proclaimed son of Whitebeard, and his mother, Miss Bakine, is the self-proclaimed lover of Whitebeard. You want to imagine these two getting together, okay, have fun with those nightmares and night terrors tonight, but you're sitting there wondering, like, are they really? Is Weevil really? Like, really? And Nekomamushi kind of brings it up in the same way. He's just kind of like, yeah, while we're on the topic of Weevil, like, cut it to me, cut the bullshit and just tell me straight up, Marco. Are they really, like, is that really Whitebeard's son? Does Miss Bakine really jump on Whitebeard's, can you tell me? And Marco really doesn't know. That's the short answer. He's just like, yeah, I really don't know anything about that whole affair. I don't know the situation, although it's fair to assume that Weevil, or rather Bakine, is after the inheritance of Whitebeard, and the inheritance is kind of the thing that is keeping this village alive. So it's possible that Weevil and Bakine might find this place, and that's not going to be good. But then again, we could see Weevil versus Marco, which is pretty cool. But anyway, or hey, maybe he might attack when Nekomamushi's there as well, and the Minks get some action. Who knows? But then Marco brings up about Bakine, and he's like, well, I don't really know anything about the whole self-proclaimed lover, but about 40-odd years ago, Bakine was a pirate, and she was on the same ship as Pops. Okay, so 40-odd years ago, Bakine was a pirate. On the same ship as Pops. Okay, add her to the conspiracy board. Hell, add Whitebeard to the conspiracy board, too, about the whole rocks thing. Okay, alright, so we got Garp, chasing after Shocky around 40 years ago. Big Mom, Kaido, 40. It all ties back to about 40 years ago. What happened 40 years ago, damn it? Alright, well, I guess we're gonna find out, but it's very possible all of these people might be connected to rocks in some way, so we'll work on that later. Also, to keep in mind, Whitebeard died when I think he was 76, so if we're talking 40 years ago, he would be about in his 30s. And hey, maybe it was this scene right here where we see Whitebeard hanging out on some random ship. That was probably the same ship that Bakin was on as well. Now, I'm not going to say this was Locke's or Rock's ship, but probably the same ship that Bakin was on with Pops. This is like what Marco was talking about here, when Whitebeard was younger and he had the long flowing mane of hair and he was like, I just want to have a family. Probably the same ship, but we just don't know. So that's the situation with Weevil and Bakin. Marco really doesn't know much. I don't think Whitebeard really would have been the one to tell them a lot of stuff about it, okay, let's assume everything is true. Let's assume Bakin really was the lover of Whitebeard and that she mothered his child, and that was Weevil. Alright? I don't think Whitebeard would be the kind of guy like, alright, kids, come on, it's time for Whitebeard's story time. Let me tell you about the time I nailed this girl named Bakin. I also have a kid running around out there somewhere. Not the kind of thing I think Whitebeard would just tell to his crew members, Might be a little embarrassed about it, actually. I don't know. Hey, you know what? This is One Piece logic. Bakin was probably hot as fucking Nami back in the day, if we're going with that logic, considering with, last chapter with Bonnie and her aging thing, and, how Big Mom was when she was 28, so, yeah, just go along with it. But anyway, the essential point you have to take away from this is that Marco cannot leave this place. And so Nekomamushi went to go find him and kind of bring him back and help them out, and Marco's like, I have to stay here. This is where I belong right now. Maybe this is sort of his, idea of, redemption. Whitebeard died, and then I tried to repay him, and that failed. I have to do something to kind of, redeem myself in Whitebeard's memory or something like that. So he's like, I have to stay on this island. And so, he just says, oh, I want you to give a message to the Straw Hats, though. And this is an important message. And he gives it to Nekomamushi. And we don't know what the message was, but he gives it to him. And he's like, you're heading to Wano, right? Next? We're going to Wano next, right? All right, we're going to Wano, right? Wano. When is Wano coming? Well, Oda, I am tired of your bullcrap. You give us Wano Kuni right now! The death of Fire Fist Ace, Robin screaming I want to live on the top of the Tower of Law just in general. There's certain moments throughout One Piece where you're just caught up with so much emotion, you don't know what to do, You've arrived at Wano Kuni. Okay, so it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, keep in mind, this is not the entirety of Wano. Wano is a big place. How do I know this? Okay, well, it was actually two hints. The first hint is this. This is sort of the base of operations for Kaido, and we're pretty sure this is Wano. It's a snowy region. So this is obviously not a snowy region. This looks like a very nice, peaceful kind of spring place. Cherry blossoms everywhere, giant tree with a pagoda on kind of the middle part of the tree. It kind of looks very uneasy. It looks like a gentle breeze can kind of knock this thing over, but that's the palace, I guess. Really just epic, feudal era Japan. That's going to be the design for everything in Wano. So those are obviously two different regions. Also, it was stated as kind of a hint that Kinemon was born in the Kuri region of Wano. And the Kuri region was the area that Momonosuke's father, Lord Odin, as the daimyo, ruled over. So there's going to be different regions. There's probably going to be different, different nobles that rule over each region. Some are going to be nice, like Odin. Some are going to be in the pocket of the Shogun. Keep in mind, just in terms of the caste system here, we're going to be going back to this a few times, but we're probably going to be sticking to this caste system with the daimyos and the samurai, and you see the Shogun there, and then on top of the Shogun, you see the Emperor. Now, I guarantee you there's going to be an emperor somewhere in Wano, so keep an eye out for him. But essentially, the Shogun is the one that kind of rules over everything. He has all of the power. At this stage, the emperor is more of just like just a figurehead, so the emperor might not have a lot of power, might not be able to boss the Shogun around, but there's definitely going to be an emperor, and I'm thinking he's going to be a nice guy as opposed to the Shogun, who we know is an absolute bastard. So keep an eye out for that. But I'm just going to come back to this caste system chart because I just love it. But anyway, now we get what we have all been waiting for, kids. Now we get to cut over and see what the other members of the Straw Hat crew have been doing. It's been a long time since we've seen them, too. In fact, I went back and crunched the numbers. I think we've spent more time away from Robin and Frankie and Zoro than we spent time away from Nami and Chopper and Brooke back in Dressrosa. So remember, not even I think a third of the way through Dressrosa, you know, Big Mom attacks the Thousand Sunny, and then Nami and Brooke and Chopper, they all have to leave and escape to go to Zoe. And they're not in the rest of that arc. And I think it was around 60-something chapters that we didn't get to see them until the very end of Dressrosa, when we have that aforementioned scene where we cut over to Zoe very briefly. So they were just absent from the manga for like 2 years. And then, after the Zoe arc, after they decide to go their separate ways and their different operations, we haven't seen them since either. That was around chapter like 820-something. I think it's been like 80-something chapters since we've seen Zoro or Robin or Frankie or Usopp. So it's been a very long time, right? But let's see what's going on. All right, so the first thing is we cut over to a construction yard where we see a foreman who's just yelling down. And the foreman is actually somebody we have seen before. Somebody from an SBS named Minatomo. He's the guy that has like nails stuck in his nose, on his face, and everything like that. Just sort of like a gag character that Oda invented to cover a plot hole. Really quick, just because I want to cut to Frankie and everybody else, but back during the Fuchsia Village arc, I guess there was that scene where Higuma, you know, he bursts down the door and walks into the bar, and then they rough up Shanks. In the next scene, the door was fixed, and someone sent in a message to Oda like, hey, Oda, why is the door fixed? It was just probably a plot hole Oda just forgot, but Oda being Oda invented Minatomo as a wandering carpenter that just can't resist seeing a broken door, and he has to fix it up right away. So he uses him here as a member of Wano Kuni. Isn't that cool? I love when Oda pulls this kind of shit. Makes us go like scavenger hunting. But anyway, Minatomo is shouting down to he's like, hey, what the hell ye built this part over here? Who did this? Ye. Now, listen, because this is Wano, there's going to be a different dialect. I don't know if the translators are going to stick with this the entire time. We'll see where this goes. But get ready to hear a lot of yees and thous and stuff like that. It's kind of like how, anybody ever watch Sekirei? If you haven't, it's about magical superpower girls with big tits. Anyway, there's a character in Sekirei named Tsukumi who has water powers, but she talks in the original Japanese, she talks in very archaic Japanese. But when bringing it over to the English dub, it would make more. It would be like easier for her to talk not in a traditional Japanese style, but in a more Shakespearean style. So that's what they did for her. She talks with like thou and ye and stuff like that. So that's probably the best way to translate it out. It's old-fashioned English in the translation, old-fashioned Japanese. But that's the way they're going to be talking because it's feudal era Japan. It's Wano. But anyway, he's shouting down like, "Who built this part?" And then we see Frankie in all of his superness, and he's wearing the Japanese outfit, and he's got the hair, and I'm thinking that's supposed to be a really elaborate top knot, but you think it would be going the other way if it was. Maybe it's supposed to be a hammer, I don't know, but I'm thinking it's the really over-the-top top knot. And he's holding a saw and everything, so he's obviously helping out with this construction site, and he's like, yeah, master, what's going on? Is there a problem with it? And, Minatomo's like, is there a problem with it? I'll tell you something. It's absolutely perfect. You're great. And so Frankie's just like, oh, yeah, sir, thank you, you piece of crap, and so whatever. And then we see he's not actually the shipwright Frankie. No, he is the carpenter Frenosuke. Okay, Super Frenosuke. All right, so they all have aliases, which is just hilarious and great. It's hell great. But here's the thing. Wano is an isolated country from the rest of the world, all right? They don't have connections to the world government, so they probably don't have wanted posters splattered all over the place. So that's why the Straw Hats can kind of walk around without any, elaborate disguises. Like in Dressrosa, they all had to wear the beards and the sunglasses and the hat to make sure they don't get identified. Here, they can basically walk around, but I guess it would be better to have aliases that are more indicative of Wano culture, you know what I mean? So Frankie is Franosuke. He is working as a carpenter. Okay, so next we cut over to a merchant stall somewhere on the island where we see Usopp, but he's not Usopp. He is in fact the toad oil salesman Usohachi. I love it. And you know what's great? This is the occupation, this is the career that Usopp was born for. Alright, the snake oil or the toad oil salesman, the one person that just like, this one in a lifetime, marvelous invention will cure all that ails you. That is the thing that Usopp is meant to do because he is so good at lying. And you know what? This is probably great for him because he was like probably terrified of coming here. Like, oh man, Yonko and freaking shoguns and samurai everywhere. But they're setting up, shop in town trying to build their covers and trying to seep into the culture of Wano, and he's like, you know what I can do? I can lie pretty well. And it's kind of the same thing that happened back on Sky Island. Remember when Usopp was selling them rubber bands? He's like, check out these rubber bands. They single-handedly defeated the Sky God Eneru. And then there's like, oh, I want some of those rubber bands, and so he was doing that. Kind of the same thing here. So Usopp steps out and he's like, take a look, ladies and gentlemen of Wano Kuni, this amazingly sharpened, polished sword of the gods. It can cut a piece of paper in 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64 pieces, and now check it out, even lightly tapping my arm with it, I am cut, but hold, it's okay, because with the miracle of toad oil, it is now gleaming and shimmering and the blood has disappeared. You need to get your bottle today, it'll cure whatever ails you, rheumatism, your hemorrhoids, whatever you want, come and check it out here at the wonderful Usohachi's Merchant Shop of Wonders. And rubber bands, okay. So that's Usopp's profession, and he has the beard on, and he's pretty cool. I at first thought that was just a fake toad that was on his head, but no, that's an actual toad. It's croaking. So you way to go, Usopp. You're making it work. Now, whether or not that toad oil stuff actually worked, like, did it actually? Because he cut his arm. Did that stuff actually heal him? I would imagine it probably wouldn't, but the people are impressed, and that's all that matters, right? So you see Usohachi there, and he's just like, yeah, I'm a great freaking salesman. Okay, so next scene we cover to another part of town where we see someone practicing dancing, and we in fact see Robin, dressed as a geisha, practicing her dance. Okay, so as I said, it's been a long time since we've seen the other members of the Straw Hat crew, and I've been reviewing One Piece for about 1.5 years now. This is the first chapter of One Piece that I've reviewed that has my favorite girl in it, Nico Robin, ladies and gents. So great. So she's all dressed up in a freaking geisha outfit. She's got the fan, she's got the kimono, she's got the things in her hair, whatever the hell those are called. And there's an older woman next to her, kind of like, playing along in the guitar, and she's kind of, coaxing Robin on. She's like, oh, you gotta lower your hips, and you gotta raise your, lower your arms and drop your waist more. Oh, you drop your waist. And it's like, basically Robin is training to become a geisha, or a dancer, a professional dancer. And she mentions, like, you think you'll ever get called to the Shogun's court with a pitiful dance like that. Okay, I'm sorry, old bag, but you seem to be criticizing Robin's ability to be sexy, and that's something that I just simply cannot. Does this look like a woman that has a problem being sexy? Alright, so here's the deal. Here's what I think is going to happen. From what we see going on with Frankie, and with Usopp, and with Robin, they're seeping into the culture of Wano, and they're doing what they do best. Robin is, Robin's being sexy, but she has other applications. He's essentially a spy, so this is probably going to work more for her than the others. But Usopp is selling the oil. He's doing what he does best, lying. Frankie is fixing. He's a carpenter. Okay, I think what their plan is trying to get really noteworthy for what they're doing, so they can get an audience with the Shogun, or they can at least meet the Shogun. Think about it. It's like back with Frankie, or I gotta get in the habit of calling them by their Wano names, but Frankosuke. Okay, he's like, oh wow, you're really good at building stuff. Hey, maybe the Shogun's castle, or the Shogun's living quarters, they need refurbishing. Maybe I'm gonna send you. You're my best worker. Or with Usopp, it could be like, wow, you know, you're really great at selling these things. This is all these miracle cures and stuff. Maybe the Shogun would be interested, or if the Shogun is he's wandering through town and is like, hey, sir, Mr. Shogun, check out these toad oil there. And he's like, yes, I've heard about these. Or in Robin's case, trying to get a private audience in his, sleeping quarters, like, how it's going to go. And I don't think Robin does not need instructions on this. I know there's tradition, there's geisha and the dancing, you're supposed to do it a very specific way, but come on now. If this Shogun has any mind whatsoever for fabulous ladies, he would immediately be like, oh, yes, you, come to my sleeping quarters. And then Robin would be like, I'm in. And then she walks into the living quarters and the Shogun takes off his kimono and she's like, here you go. All right, let's do this. And Robin's like, okay. And Robin walks over and just, all right, here we go. Mille fleur! And then she just snaps his freaking dick off! That might have gone a little bit more elaborate than I thought, or maybe a little bit more intense than I figured. The point of the matter is that I'm trying to get across is that they're all vying to try to find a personal audience, or to actually meet the Shogun in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so that's their goal. Now we cut back a little bit. All right, we cut back a few days earlier, maybe when they first arrived at Wano. We see the group. We see Zoro and Frankie and Robin and Usopp. We see Kinemon and Kanjuro there. Law is suspiciously absent, so he's probably off doing his own thing, but we'll get to see Law again. I'm sure he's out there doing something. But anyway, yeah, they're basically in this rundown old shack, probably on the outskirts of town, and Kinemon's basically giving them the lowdown. He's telling them, like, okay, listen, first things first, this is the Wano country. And the Shogun of the Wano country is named Kurozumi Orochi. Oh shit, Orochi? Wait, no. Oh no, you don't mean... No, that's probably not Orochimaru. That might be going a little bit too far. Maybe Monster King Orochi from One Punch Man, though. That could be a distinct possibility. No, okay. So there's a few things to unpack just with that name alone. Okay, so first thing, the thing that you might notice is Orochi, because that word appears a lot in anime. Not just with Orochimaru and not just with Lord Orochi from One Punch Man, but that appears a lot. Okay, so Orochi, that actually refers to the Yamata no Orochi, the eight-headed serpent in Japanese mythology that was killed by the storm god Susanoo, who is also related to the sun goddess Amaterasu. Okay, now, going along with that, you also have his first name, which is Kurozumi. Now, I actually did some research into finding out what that meant, and the thing that I came up with was that Kurozumi... Forgive me, I have to pull out my notes here. Kurozumi, that exact word itself might be short for Kurozumi Kyo, which is actually a religion in Japan. It has Shinto roots. It started in the mid-1800s, and it has about, right now, around 200-something thousand followers. So it's not like a huge religion, but yeah, it is a religion in Japan, Kurozumi Kyo, all right? And it focuses on sincerity, selflessness, hard work. Okay, fair enough. Those things are kind of, by the book when you're talking about a religion. Okay, work hard, be sincere, be selfless, that kind of stuff. But also, here's something interesting. The affirmation of the established order. That is something that Kurozumi Kyo is all about. The affirmation of the established order. Basically, what that refers to is, this is the way the country is run, this is the government, this is the way it's been. Let's keep it the way it is. Don't fix what's not broken. And that is the thing that's very important here, because the whole deal of Odin is he wanted to open up the borders of Wano, and this could kind of give a hint that the Shogun is someone that's like, no, exact opposite. We need to keep these borders closed because that's the way it's been. Just keep the status quo the way it is. Okay, so that's something there. Now, something else that Kinemon brings up here, all of the top-ranking members of the country, including the Shogun, they are all under the thumb of Kaido. All right, so if we mess with any of them, the word is going to get back to Kaido. They're going to find out right away. So don't mess with anybody that looks official or noble. Certainly don't mess with the Shogun or any of his people, because if you do, even if you kill them or even if you succeed, Kaido's going to find out about it, and that's not going to be good for anybody, because Kaido has kind of, you know, seeped his way into this country even better than the others are. By the way, going back to that feudal Japan caste chart, it's very likely that the Straw Hats that have seeped into the culture, they're on the lowest rung of that. They're down there as the merchant and the artisan class, and those are considered the lowest ones. The way I understand it is the reason why merchants are ranked so low, it's because you're basically making money off other people's, you know, hard work. Like someone makes something and you're just the one selling it, so that's why you're kind of at the lowest rung of there. And it makes sense that, you know, seeping into this culture, they have to start off on the lowest rung of the ladder. So yeah. By the way, I don't know if Oda's going to follow this ladder specifically, but he's talking about shoguns and samurais and merchants and stuff like that. So he's probably going to have a basis for this. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a version of this chart or this pyramid at some point in Wano. So keep an eye out for that. All right. Hey guys, just something I wanted to bring up. I kind of messed up here. I'm going to go on and talk about the affiliations between Wano and the world government and how some countries are not allied with the government because of the payment that the Tenryubito require. This was actually something that was brought up by Marco earlier in the chapter. I missed it. I knew it was mentioned, and I had a whole spiel I wanted to go on about, but I thought it was Kinemon. He wasn't the one that brought it up, though. It was Marco. It's the same basic idea, it's just I thought Kinemon said it instead of Marco. So just to, like, lessen the confusion, there you go. But that situation here, and Kinemon also brings up that, you know, Wano is a place that is not allied with the world government. And it's kind of like, there's other countries as well that are not allied with it, and usually the reason why a country is not allied with the government, it's because they can't pay the Tenryubito fee. So there's a fee to be part of the world government, alright? So, like, remember that island that Homing took his family to after he declared his humanity, and he took, you know, Doflamingo and Rocinante and his wife there? There was a random island in the North Seas that was just unaffiliated. It's very likely that that island just couldn't pay the Tenryubito fee, and that's why they really hated the Tenryubito and everything like that, and they burned the house down and all that stuff. So that's probably the situation there. The situation with Wano is probably a little different. It's not that they couldn't pay, it's just they don't want to be part of the world government. They are choosing to be isolated, rather as other countries that are unaffiliated with the world government, they might actually want to be part of it, they just don't have enough money because they're a very poor nation to be part of it. See what the difference is there? Wano is choosing this. And with that, we cut over to the last scene of the chapter where we have yet another area of Wano in the city. It seems rather higher class, and we see a lot of noble-looking people walking around, and they mention that there's been a street murderer, kind of like a Jack the Ripper-esque character, you know, walking around the streets at night and killing people for the last few months. In fact, in the last month alone, 3 people have died. So they're like, we finally caught this street murderer, we finally caught him! And lo and behold, it's actually Zoro. But not just is he being charged with the street murders, which... Zoro, okay, you had a little bit too much to drink last night, Zoro? No, Zoro's not a murderer. You tell me one person that Zoro has ever killed. Yeah. Can't do that, can you? Alright, but anyway, so yeah, he's not only being charged with the street murder, though, by the way, total scapegoat here. It's like, oh, here's a guy we found. He's like, oh, well, he looks kind of suspicious. Oh, let's just try him for everything. Alright, fair enough. Instead of just trying to find the actual killer or whatever. Anyway, they also are trying him for a grave robbing charge 23 years ago of the national hero of Wano that had the sword, Shusui. So not only is he being charged on, he's 2 separate accounts. Actually 3. The street murder charge, robbing the body of Ryuma, taking the actual body away, which was something that Hogback and Moria did, and then the actual taking of Shusui. And Shusui he had on him, so they took off Shusui off of Zoro's person, and Zoro is just kind of playing it up, and his actual name is Zoro Juro, and he is a Ronin, which, by the way, Ronin, also part of that Japanese caste system, right underneath Samurai. They are the wandering samurai without a master. Looking cool, also. But anyway, yeah, Zoro is probably playing it up because he's like, alright, I'm going to listen to Kinemon, what he said, and I'm not going to arouse suspicion. I'm just going to play along with this. As long as Zoro can conceivably playing along with this, alright? So he's sitting down, and now we finally find out that the namesake of the chapter, Seppuku, what it's all about. This is how the law works in Wano. It's pretty straightforward. It's like you're found guilty of a crime, well... not really found guilty of a crime. Hey, you could be a scapegoat for a crime, so, yeah, let's just have you commit seppuku in the public square, and that'll solve the problem, right? It's very quick justice system in Wano, you know what I mean? So they do all the hosh bagosh, and they set up he's in the white kimono, and he's standing in front of the, by the way, I'm calling all of these things kimonos. They probably all have different names, but I'm sorry. I'm trying my best here, but I'm not Japanese, and I don't have an in-depth knowledge of the culture, so I'm probably going to call something else when it's actually this, and I apologize for that, but what are you going to do? All right, so he's sitting there, and Zoro has the top knot, which is cool. They lay out the dagger in front of him, which is really just a blade that's wrapped up in cloth, and they have all of the things in front of him, and they say, you know, you stole the sword. However, they mention, you know, you don't seem to be that old, so you must have taken it from the original thief, because this theft occurred 23 years ago. All right, so this was actually, keep in mind, Roger was executed 24 years ago, so this was right at the dawn of the Great Pirate Era. This is probably when Moria and Hogback arrived at the island. Maybe not even Hogback yet. Maybe Hogback's not even involved. Maybe just Moria. Because remember, Moria was present 24 years ago at Roger's execution. There he is right there. A little bit thinner than he was now, right? Anyway, after Roger's execution, he was inspired, just like Crocodile was, and he decided to set out to the seas and become a pirate. And he arrived at Wano, and maybe he had the Kage no Mi for a while or something, and he decided to steal the zombie, the corpse of Ryuma, to use as a zombie, and that's when he showed up. And Moria is like, I think Moria is actually the oldest of the warlords. I mean, he's not a warlord anymore, but I think he's like 50 or 51. So yeah, he would have been about like in his 20s back when this occurred. Zoro wasn't even born yet when this theft occurred 23 years ago. Zoro's only 21. But anyway, the noble-looking dude takes up Shusui, and he's kind of drooling over it. He's just kind of like, yeah, you probably took it from the original thief, but whatever, I don't even care. Look at this blade. Oh, look at the sharpness. It's the great blade of the legendary hero, Ryuma. Oh, it's mine now. That's kind of the impression I get from this guy. This guy is creepy as hell. So now he's like, yeah, it's mine now. I can have it. So Zoro is just kind of talking to the dude, and he's just like, yeah, so hey, this knife you gave me to kill myself with, it doesn't have a guard or a grip. And he's just like, yeah, that's just, it's because you're not supposed to fight with it. You're supposed to kill yourself. So seppuku, if you don't know how that process works, allow me to tell you. Actually, I don't have to, because Oda explains it in the next panel. You know what? Screw it. I don't care. I want to talk about this, okay? So seppuku, here's the basic gist. You're sitting down on your knees, you got a dagger. You take it and you shove it into your stomach, you twist and and then your stomach just all over the place. And then you die. And if you're too much of a wimp to do it that way, there's a guy behind you that has a katana basically like this, and if you hesitate when you go to kill yourself, he just lops off your head. So that's basically the gist of seppuku, or stomach cutting, harigiri, whatever. And as you can probably imagine, anybody that has a basic idea of human biology, you know, cutting yourself and emptying out your stomach, that probably would not kill you instantly. I mean, it could. You could die of shock or something, but it's not like getting shot in the head, all right? So that's probably not going to kill you. So you got to live with your entrails and your stomach just gushing out of your body all in front of you. All the bacteria and the stomach acid inside of your stomach is just now all over your body. It would be a painful freaking death, right? But yeah, that's what Zoro's about to break out. So he's like, well then, farewell, everybody. And they're all talking about how, oh, such an honorable death or whatever. But Zoro just kind of looks over to the dude. It's, you know, like eyeing up Shusui and like drooling over it. And he's like, you smell like blood, dude. You're the one that's the killer, huh? And everyone's like, what? And then Zoro just takes the tiny, keep in mind, tiny little dagger, just a piece of metal blade wrapped in a cloth. That's all it is. He takes it and just shing! And then it slices the whole freaking building apart, cuts the guy with Shusui down, and he's like, how did he do that with just a seppuku blade? What? And then Zoro states, you know, I'm sorry, Kinemon. And the Wano country arc opens up with trouble. All right, so Zoro did this for about as long as he could have. He lasted a lot longer, I can figure, right? And we cut over to the Shusui stuff a lot, also sooner than I thought. I knew Shusui was going to play a big part in Wano. It was going to be a plot thread, but I had no idea we were going to cut to it in the first chapter alone, where Zoro already gets arrested for it. You know, I can imagine Zoro just kind of wandering around town looking for booze, and then they see it on him because he didn't hide it, and they just take him away, and there you go. So, yeah, that's the situation there. So, he cut down a noble, probably, who is also probably tied with Kaido, Probably. So the operation has now been in danger, but we don't know exactly where the time frame is right now. We might be cutting a little bit into the future. Hell, Luffy and Nami and Brook and Chopper, they could be arriving at Wano like the same day. You know, this could, obviously they've been in Wano for a few weeks. They've set up their identities and everything like that. They have their names. Kinemon could probably make them any clothes that they want, and they've already seeped into the culture. And so now Zoro's taking action. He's like, I can't take this anymore. I obviously can't kill myself, but you're the one that I think actually killed those people, and so he cuts him down. So, I mean, there's so much. I mean, it's a new arc. It's a whole new arc, so I have no idea where we're going from here. If the next chapter is gonna, you know, the other Straw Hats are gonna arrive, I hope we get to see Law, if nothing else. Next chapter, I hope we get to see Law and what's he been up to the entire time, right? So, hope we get to see him. Maybe he'll rescue Zoro. Who knows? What's going on with Kaido? Maybe we got to get to see the Shogun. His name is Orochi, so I want to see what he looks like. Probably a guy. I would say most likely, yeah, he's a guy. I think it was pretty much they used male pronouns. They're probably a guy. Yeah, so this is a whole new arc, and we're gonna be here for a long time. Don't worry, guys, unless I end up getting hit by a bus or something, I will be here the entire time with you all to journey through Wano, and yeah, so with that being said, this has been a long video, but yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and let's hope this is just an epic arc as we were all expecting. All right. A lot of badass fights. We're already kind of starting off with one. All right, everyone. Tekking, signing out. See.